Welcome to our discussion of an anti-ageist practices, looking at a framework for evaluating law. I'm using a PowerPoint presentation entitled The Law as it Affects Older Adults from the Law Commission of Ontario. Just to let you know, the Law Commission of Ontario is a law reform agency. It was created in 2007, and its goal is to enhance the legal system and help create debate and to make laws better across Ontario. So if you're looking at who does law reform and what's its process, it's a long and institutional process in Canada and around the world. But right now we think about something that's done by a dedicated institution. But everyone can play a role in law reform. So if you've ever done part of a consultation or looking at policy or looking at how to change the way that you do practice, broadly speaking, that's law reform. The Law Commission of Ontario, like other law commissions, will draft legislation as one possibility or do reports as the other one. But what's really important is that they did a large and thorough framework on how to make laws and policies anti-ageist. And they went through a very extensive consultation process across the province. And they wanted to look to see if the laws were good. They wanted to see how laws and policies, so policies that could be done at hospitals or in governments or in institutions, can be looked at to see if they are positive for older adults and indeed making sure that they are not anti-ageist. You want to make sure that they have substantive equality. So it's not just that everybody can access things formally, but that people can really actually get to it. So we're looking through questions around what is an older adult, and they decided not to actually specifically use an age, but rather look at self-identification. So when we're looking at using an anti-ageist lens, it's really a self-identified lens. And they used advisory groups and public consultations. They came up with 6 key principles for reviewing and looking at laws and policies, and they are respecting dignity and worth, fostering independence and autonomy, promoting participation and inclusion, recognizing the importance of security, responding to diversity and individuality, and understanding membership in the broader community. And dignity here was looking at ageist attitudes, and it's supposed to reinforce the worth and contributions of older adults. Looking at independence and autonomy, it was important to make sure that they are not paternalistic, and noting that dignity is different from autonomy. You can have very limited ability to make choices and exercise autonomy, but still live a very dignified life. For participation and inclusion, yes, they're talking about social inclusion, but it's also the inclusion in terms of the developments of laws and policies and programs. So are people themselves part of the process? Security. Well, of course, it's freedom from abuse, but it's also the access to supports such as health and social services. Security, however, should not be used to trump the other principles. So sometimes security and autonomy are back and forth with each other. An example would be the use of restraints. If the person is being restrained, they may be very secure, but they may not have much autonomy or indeed dignity. Diversity and individuality recognizes that older adults are individuals and that there is a wide range of experiences that they would have that will build them as individuals. So not just defining people by their age. Membership in the broader community is very important. So making sure that they are considering reciprocal rights and obligations amongst all members of society. And that these principles have to be understood in relationship to each other. So there's not just one overcoursing principle, but you have to look at all of these issues. They took a couple of approaches, and one was that they were progressively realizing these principles. The second is that they adopted a life course approach. So when they're looking at how to review laws, they were looking at them across the entire life course. So the health and well-being and economic security will be shared by experiences of children, youth, and adults. So for instance, looking at literacy, the literacy levels of older adults today are affected by how they were when they were youth or children. So barriers and opportunities experienced at one stage of life can have consequences and across the lifespan. So understanding that older adults are very diverse, and it's really important not to just classify all older adults based on age. That, of course, is an effective ageism. So some context to consider. It's important to consider the life expectancy, the literacy and education levels, labor force participation and income security, the living environments of people, the health and activity levels and disabilities of people, and the family relationships and caring. For the overall population, clearly the life expectancy is probably going to be longer than for older adults. So we are looking at towards the third portion of the life. This is obviously more true for people in advanced age. Legal redress, it may be more difficult if you have less time to do this. It's important to consider that they are not going to be making as much money and for as long, and they're at higher risk of health or disabilities. So there's a multivariate approach. We'll continue with the next mini session to look at the notions of dependency and well-being at the framework itself.